Hello, and welcome back to the Tea and Soju Sea Drama Podcast, your safe spot for sea drama chatter. I'm your host, Liliana, and it's time to sit back, grab your tea, and let's chat Asian dramas. Except today's episode is going to be a bonus episode, and we are not doing an Asian drama. We are turning to the West, and we are going to be reviewing Maxton Hall. Now, just before we get into that, some housekeeping. If you like the podcast, please share and subscribe on the platform you listen on. That really helps the podcast reach other listeners. For more content, check out Patreon, where you can find behind the scenes, first impressions, movie reviews, and more. Finally, if you would like to chat to me or find a community, check out Discord, Instagram, and other socials. The link is in the episode notes. So, I couldn't be doing this by myself. So we've brought back Jess and Becky, and they're going to be reviewing this drama with me. Reviewing. I say that lightly, guys. This is just basically going to be a chaos filled bonus episode for you for
We're here to
your
have fun.
enjoyment. Yeah, we're going to have fun. This is literally just three friends sitting down and having fun. But before we can get into that, Jess, would you like to go ahead and say hi? I'm not even going to say introduce because people should know who you guys are by now, but just go ahead and say hi.
Okay, I'll go first. So my name is Jess. I'm the host of the Tebake Rambles podcast, and I'm one third of the drama trio. And I'm really happy to be back and talking about Maxon Hall. Becky, over to you.
Hello, I'm Becky. Also, I just started my podcast, Drama Detours, so excited about that. But you might know me as Don't Sue Rebecca on TikTok, and I also talk quite a bit about dramas.
Yes.
And I have been on the trio. I've been guesting.
You
Yeah.
have.
Little
You
bits.
have.
We have
We
fun
were on the
conversations.
genre special was a lot of fun with us.
It was. It was. I think that's like still one of the longest recording sessions we've ever done.
Yeah.
We recorded for a while on that one we did, but it was a lot of fun.
The two-parter.
It was a two-part that one. It had to be. There was no way I could release like an almost 5 hour long episode.
Was it that long?
Yeah, it really is. It
I
really
didn't
is.
even realize. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's long. It's long. But look, we just get to chatting. That it just happens.
It's natural.
Yeah, it's just natural. Like I don't even try to change it anymore. It is what it is at this point. So, if you don't know what Maxton Hall is, it's a little show over on Amazon, and I'm just going to read you the synopsis for it. When Ruby unwillingly witnesses an explosive secret at Maxton Hall Private School, arrogant millionaire heir James Beaufort is forced to confront the quick-witted scholarship student. Much to his chagrin, he is determined to silence Ruby. Their passionate exchange of blows surprisingly ignites a spark. I mean, that just sounds like trope
Sounds
after
awful.
trope. It just sounds really
It's
bad.
from a book. It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is from a book. So we have so this is based on a book and it's called Save Me by Mona Carsten. And then you have it's a trilogy. So you have Save Me, we have Save You, and then we have Save Us.
Save us.
Funnily enough, none of these books are translated into English. I am
No.
reading it.
Oh,
I've
really?
read the yes, no, none of them are translated into English. I was really lucky. They are translated into Portuguese. So it's
Oh.
bizarre, right? They are translated into Portuguese, Spanish, even like not Dutch, Hungarian. It's translated into Hungarian. It's translated
Wow.
into a bunch of languages, but not English. It's really,
That's
really
rude.
bizarre.
That's
Yeah, and the
interesting.
thing is, I don't think people were expecting when they made the show, they were not expecting it to like blow up as big as it was. And I think it did the author such a disservice because if the books had been in English, a bunch of
Mm.
people would have like purchased the books.
Yeah,
Because
very true.
Yeah.
Season 1 does not end how book 1 ends. It's quite interesting. I'll let you guys know when we get into the
Shit.
spoilers, but
Already.
yeah,
Here we go.
I'm
yeah.
flabbergasted.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. The thing is, it's taking me forever to read these books because I grew up reading English books, and it's not that I can't read Portuguese. I can, it's fine. It's
Yeah, but
just weird to
you're
read
using
like
like
the book.
another part of your brain to read it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it takes me like forever. I can read just as quickly in Portuguese, but it's just like there's words that they use that aren't common words in
Mm,
Portuguese that I'm like, what the heck does that even mean? Like I have to like Google it or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, I got them in Portuguese like as ebooks, but I might get the actual physical copies in when I go back home. They
In Portuguese
have
or
like
German, the native German.
no, the Portuguese version
Okay, because
when I go back home.
sometimes I buy books for book covers sometimes,
Oh
and
my
it
God.
just depends.
They have the most gorgeous book covers. They have like a special edition for the 3 books that is stunning. They are so beautiful. And I actually have a friend who lives in Germany, and she was like, "Look, if you want them, they're in German, but if you want them for your shelf, like I will happily grab them for you." And like she lives, funnily enough, we found out that she's also Portuguese, but she lives in Germany, and she lives like 20 minutes away from where I live in Portugal. It's like a ridiculously small world. And she's like, I can either ship them to you, or, I can take them to
That's so
Portugal and like
nice.
exchange it. And I was like, I'm gonna hold off on it for a bit because like they're not too expensive for a special edition, but they're in German, and I feel like I don't know, I feel like bad just buying them for for my shelf. And also I have no shelf space, guys. Like it's full. Like my books, there's no space for any more books right now. So yeah, but it is based on a book series. It's screenplay. This is so bizarre because I'm so used to using MDL for everything, and I had to like go and look at other places like on Wikipedia and so screenplay. I am gonna butcher half of these, but there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screenwriters. It's more than there is the amount of episodes. It's really bizarre. So we
This is
have
okay. So this is a show that was written with a writer's room.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
writer's
yeah,
room.
yeah.
And I do have a quote from the producer because I saw this Deadline
Do
article and I was like,
you?
oh,
Go
this is a great
ahead.
article. So one of the producers, it's a producing duo. One of them said, our task was to say, okay, when it's touching so many people and so many people are carried away in this euphoric spirit, how can we adapt that? How can we translate that into this visual format? The name of this producer is Selin Yildirim. I
Mhm.
hope that's how you pronounce their name. So we started to create a vision about how poetry and philosophical aspects and the soul of the story could be introduced. We needed 1 year to approach it in a very detailed way, together with our fantastic head writer, Daphne Ferraro. And then the writer's room started with 7 staff writers who were fantastic
Mm,
too. And we got to the core of it. So that's why there's so many names.
yeah. So, and
Nice.
those names are we have Mark Schreiber. I'm gonna butcher these because I don't know. So Marlene Melchior, Zoe Hagen, Nina Rutke, Anna. I don't even know how to say that. Like that is nah.
Are these all
And
in
then we
German?
have
Yeah, these are German
yeah.
names,
These are
likely.
German. Yeah. And then we have Juliana on there as well. So yeah, 2 directors. It stars Harriet Harbing Matten. It stars Damien Hard, and it stars. Yeah, I think that's it. That's the main cast because
Are
that's just
you
our main
okay over
couple.
there?
Yeah, I am just dying. Like these, it's really hard to say these names.
Yeah. So Harriet plays Ruby Bell. She is
Yeah,
only 20 years old.
Wait,
it's
really?
see. Yeah,
She's
she's
20 years old now. So when they
yeah,
filmed this, she was a teenager. She was
yeah.
born in 2003.
She's so talented.
Mm. She
And then
does. I will
Damien,
say,
go for it.
I
Go
was
for it.
just gonna say, she looks slightly older than like I would have given her, I don't know, 23, 24 maybe. Um,
Well, yeah. I thought she
but
looked kind of young.
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's
Really?
just me. Yeah.
Probably when she has her hair up in that atrocious bun. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
atrocious.
Oh yeah.
It
No,
is.
no, no. But
The
it's
bun, the bun, the
we gotta
bun,
talk
my
about it.
God. The
So,
bun.
and then
God.
Damien plays James Beaufort, and he's 25 now. He was
Mhm.
born in 98. And I love his little synopsis of his character. He says in that same Deadline article, he says James is an insanely toxic masculine guy. And I'm
I
like,
mean,
yep.
accurate.
He said,
Accurate.
these are direct quotes.
Honestly.
He lives for excess, knows no future, but is suddenly forced into the moment by Ruby.
And also, this guy, can we just talk about him for a second? This
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
guy,
sure. This is my favorite part of any show. Is when we like go off the rails going feral.
this guy
so-
is ridiculously talented. Like,
Oh,
and
yeah. He's like a
smart
Renaissance guy.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's smart too. Like he was in pre-med before he
Mhm.
decided to be an actor. Like
Yeah.
this guy, and he speaks like 4 or 5 languages. It's
Polyglot.
like the guy is talented. And yeah, apparently he's fairly big in Germany, and now everybody simps after him because everybody's like, you know,
I
came
I
across
don't
him on
see a
this show.
problem.
He's just so
No problems. Yeah,
talented.
no problems. No problems. No problems whatsoever. Like these two together, their chemistry is off the hook. Like I don't. And the thing is, it's even when you see their behind the scenes and their interviews, they play into that like chemistry and there's like little touches between them and everything to the point where people are like, are they playing or are they real? Like it's like it toes that line a
Yep.
little bit sometimes in their interviews and whatnot. So guys, should we just start talking about it? Like, should we just basically give our thoughts about this with no spoilers? Especially because realistically speaking, a lot of people were saying this is not a good show. And
Mhm,
it's like,
mhm. I heard this too. I heard
yeah,
this too.
yeah.
What else have you heard? What else have you heard?
I'm curious.
Like a lot of people are saying it's trashy. They don't see the chemistry. Aren't we over like the high school trope? It feels like a throwback in the worst way. And I'm like, look, I grew up reading stuff like this all the time. Although I was more into fantasy, I would dabble into this sort of thing a lot of times. Is this man a red flag? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course.
We're not arguing against that.
I am not arguing against this at all. And I have said this before. If I was in this situation, I would be running for the hills. Like, I want nothing to do with this family, nothing to do with him.
This
care.
this show would be 30 minutes long for me, actually, because she
Exactly.
witnesses this thing in episode 1 and he goes to bribe her and pay her off
Exactly.
The money
to keep
and
her
walk
mouth shut.
away.
And
Take
I
the
would take the
money.
money. I would
Exactly.
high key take the money and leave. That would be the end of the show.
That's all we needed to do, honestly. But
No. There is this whole thing, and actually I'm just gonna dig a little bit into like books for a very brief second.
Say your piece. Say your piece.
There's this really big thing about like dark romance or books with smut or anything like that. And people that think they're so righteous and whatnot will dig at people who enjoy reading like a dark romance and things like that. And I'm just like, dude, as long as you know that these characters are only in the book and only okay in a book and never in real life, I don't see the problem with people enjoying whatever the heck they want to enjoy in their, spare time. Is it bothering you that much that you have to, comment on it? And it's really interesting. There was a bunch I was coming across because I get dragged into book talk because I like getting some recommendations. And there's this whole thing about like men just poking their heads into book talk and like judging women for what they like to read. And what they don't understand is that in these books, these characters are bad in a sense, but they will do anything for these women. So it's like written for women. So get out the door, leave us alone, let us read what we want to read. And this is exactly that sort of thing. This type of story is catered to like women, a lot of the book talk girlies were just like, I've read books like this 1,000 times over. I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is. Is it
I'm
a
gonna eat it
trashy
up every
TV?
time.
Exactly. And then they still lovers trope.
Exactly.
That I mean, every time, it doesn't matter.
We're not saying it's a good show. That we never said that. We're saying it's a bingeable, tropey, trashy TV that you cannot take your eyes off it. And, sometimes it's great to just have a little bit of a show that you can completely turn your brain off and just be like, look, I'm just gonna watch this for what it is. So yeah. That was like my little rant on not letting on judging people for what they like to watch or read.
I agree with that completely. There's nothing wrong with watching trash television. However, I honestly don't consider this trash television. Like I've watched
No, I
way
don't.
out of left
Same.
field that I'm like, okay, no one's ever gonna have to watch this. And I click play on something and I'm like, shit, this is terrible. But
Mm.
it's so easy to watch. I'm having fun. That's all that matters. This one, I honestly feel like they did the best version of these tropes. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are familiar tropes.
Mm-hmm.
No one's surprised about where the story is going. But I felt that this show was very sincere and earnest. It wasn't treating the content like it was a joke, like they were in on this
I
joke.
agree.
And that was so refreshing for me to see. I thought the soundtrack was sick, like the OST, for lack of a better
Oh my
word.
God, the
I
Crazy
also
good.
wrote that down.
So
Unbelievable.
good.
Songs.
Yeah.
The
So
songs were
good.
so good.
So good.
And they matched the
so
mood of
good.
every scene.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Remarkably well acted. Like from jump, I was like, whoa, actually, they're treating this like a job. Like it's a job to come in and create chemistry like this and not just play off of like what's already there. And it was remarkably well shot. Like the cinematography of the
Yes, I
show,
completely
stunning.
agree.
Yes.
So all these things mixed together make this an elevated show to me, not just run of the mill, like C or B level, high school romance content. Okay. I really don't see it as such. So if I'm gonna be honest, I liked it, and not ironically.
Yeah.
No, I really liked it. I thought like it was the first time in a long, long time that I press play on a Western show. I just don't watch them at all. Like very, very rarely do I play anything that isn't like Chinese or Korean or whatever. So it takes a lot for me to be dragged out of like my Asian shows into the West. And
Mhm.
basically the way that I found this one is again Book Talk was raving about it constantly,
were.
and I would just get scenes.
I love Book Talk.
Me
I don't
too.
even read that much. I love Book Talk.
I love Book Talk. I just love. There's a couple of like Book Talk content creators. There's specifically one that talks really fast and is completely realistic, and I will eat her videos up like nobody's business. But regardless, like I kept seeing this and I was like, do you know what? I was in a bit of a slump. So I was like, I'm just going to press play. I sat there and binged the whole damn thing in
It
one
sucks you
sitting.
in.
Look, I was meant to go to work the next day and I pressed play at this at like 7 p.m. in the evening and it was like 11:30 and I was still watching. And guys, I get up at 5 a.m. to go to work and I was like, I need to sleep. Like, but I couldn't because I was just so hyped up and like so giddy to watch the next episode. And again, that doesn't happen very often. There's not a lot of shows that I will trade in my sleep for, and this was one of those. So I, like Jess said, I think I can't say the word now. Like how it was shot, it was so beautiful. The buildings are stunning. The
They're
sets
gorgeous.
are real sets. A lot of it
Mhm.
is shot in the UK, in, Oxford, Cambridge, which are historical, landmarks and whatnot that look beautiful and stunning. So it has like this old feel almost because
The
it's
Maxton Hall Castle School,
yeah.
it was shot in Marienburg Castle near Hanover in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Which
that
I
was
guess
all...
is also owned by a wealthy German family with British connections. So it's like all intertwined.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was shot there. And then the only bits that were shot in the UK were the parts that basically they went off to college to sort of explore college.
Yeah,
And
and they went to
funnily,
London at one of the
yes, they
episodes
went to
too.
London. Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
yeah.
obviously London, Piccadilly
So
Circus, all that.
yeah, yeah. So, like I said, it was shot beautifully. I think these two actors can teach others about chemistry because it is so intense. It's like you feel like you're intruding on a moment that
Yeah,
you
The eye
shouldn't.
contact.
You feel, oh my God, his eyes. Oh my God. I
very
was
expressive.
basically so expressive, so expressive. They do a lot of talk with their like body language. And do you know what? There is one thing I will say though. I will say a lot of people were like, oh my God, I watched it dubbed. No, I could not. Like,
Oh,
I
I had to
need the
stop it
subtitles. It
immediately.
was
You guys,
horrendous.
I watched it both. So I watched it dubbed because my friend didn't want to, like, read the but actually, like,
Yeah.
for people that don't want to read the subtitles, she liked it. She thought it was good. And I tolerated it. I mean, I watched it dubbed and I watched it subbed, and I thought they did
Yeah,
a good
yeah,
job at the dubbing because, like, I mean, you've seen some shows where you're like,
Oh,
absolutely
it's
not, they
bad.
sound the same. But I think they really did like have some emotional depth. Like at first, I was like, "Oh, I don't want to watch this," but then I was like, I actually don't. Like in a lot of dubs, you're like, "Oh, turn this off. This is so terrible." But this time I was like, "Okay, wait. They have like emotional depth in their voices, which, a lot of dubs don't." But I just wanted to say, I just think it was a really good book adaptation. There are not a lot of good book adaptation shows, and like they didn't go too hard into the side characters. They mainly focused on the main characters. Some shows focus a lot of the time on the side characters and then the plot gets lost in the process. And I think that, like,
Bridgerton season 3. What?
yeah, that's
Why
what I'm
did you bring
saying.
that
That's
up?
what I'm
That's so
saying.
crazy.
I just like, and so Maxton Hall, like, even if people call it trash, even if people say it's cheesy or it's not, like, it's based off of a
Mm.
book, it's supposed to be cheesy, but they did it in a way that what you were saying with all the seven writers in a room, the narration is so poetic,
The
and
voiceover. Yeah.
Yeah.
the voiceovers that they do, like it's not just Ruby narrating. At one point, it's also our main guy narrating, and you kind of see different perspectives through their narrations, and it's really well done. Like I really loved it, and I just had to say that real quick.
Yeah, so the book, it feels true more to the book because a lot of the book is in Ruby's point of view. There is
hmm
some that is in
James.
James' point of view, but a lot of it is in her point of view. So I think it's a really good book adaptation. I've only, like I said, I'm like halfway through the first book. But I know how the first book ends, but I am halfway through the first one. And so
Mhm.
far it's really well adapted. And that's really hard. It's really, really hard for a book to be well adapted onto a screen, especially if you've read the books first, because a book can just give so much more context than a show because you can't see it. They have to sort of tell you a lot of things when you're reading, and then it's like left up to your imagination to sort of put it together in a way. So there's a lot more in a book than in a show can do it. And also, I think for 6 episodes, everything moved really well.
Yes,
It
the
was like,
pacing.
Yes, I
yeah,
agree.
the pacing was really good. And like I said, 6 episodes, you just binge it in a blink of an eye, and you're like, how did I get to the end of this so quickly? You don't even realize. And there's scenes that are just iconic from the show. Like people like for me, I'm not going to spoil what the scene is, but the weekends, I was listening to some
Stop.
music today.
Stop it.
The weekends, A Moth to a Flame came on, and that scene is all I can think about is like that scene of them together.
I'm
And like
embarrassed
just,
to say how many edits I've seen
yeah, to
Same.
of
that
that
song.
scene and the
Yeah,
main
yeah,
guy and all
yeah,
this
The
whole
yeah, yeah.
show.
chemistry is off the charts in like all of these
It's so
scenes, so it's
good.
just
It's
perfect
so
to edit.
good. It's so good. It
True,
really
true.
is. And it's like some of the songs, like it's been really interesting to see some of the musicians that did like that had songs, and like the rights were bought to be used in the show, and they were like fairly small musicians, and now all of a sudden people are like paying attention to these musicians because yes, you do have, you know, The Weeknd's Moth to a Flame, and you have oh my gosh, Lost You as well as one of the songs. And that one, or Arcade, is also another one that's played. And they're really big songs already. But there's others in the soundtrack
These are
that
not mainstream artists. Like a lot of these are
No.
not.
exactly. And like they've sort of blown up because their show that like the songs were used in Maxton Hall in a way that connects so much with the show that like people went in and listened, and like all of a sudden these musicians have many more followers on Spotify, many more listeners on their songs. So, you know, call it whatever you want, but the success of this show has brought a lot of good things to a lot of people, and that is, you know, just something to be happy about in a world
Mhm.
where sometimes that's not the case. It's just something to be, I mean, so far it is the most streamed show on Amazon. And it's like it became like one of the fastest streaming shows on Amazon so quickly that within a week of it being out, Amazon had renewed it for a second season. Not only that, but they started, you know, they're already recording the second season now. Like it, Amazon is moving fast on this. And it, you know, you can say that comes from the success of season one because so many people watched it that it's already, you know, season two is already being filmed. And I just loved the way they announced it on like, you know, on social media, which was, yeah, they had the main actors just like hold a two sign in front of like the second book. And I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. So it would not surprise me for us to see this show, like the second season, come out like early next year or something. Because
Good.
I mean, I don't
That'd be
know.
awesome.
I don't know.
Within a
I
year?
mean,
Hell yeah.
yeah. I mean, they're recording it
That's how
now,
it
and
should
I'm
be. That's how
assuming
it should be.
exactly,
Yeah, we shouldn't have to wait
exactly.
years.
Shouldn't
I'm
be years
hoping
between seasons.
I'm hoping we don't have to wait for like, you know, another year or more for season two. Surely not, because if it's being recorded now, surely it's not going to be, you know, that long. I don't know how this works in the West, guys. I mean,
Fingers
I
crossed.
saw because I was like, I feel very out of my depth today. Because like it's the same. A lot of people, I haven't watched Bridgerton at all, but like I think people are saying really mad because the next season is not meant to come out until like 2025 or 2026, and people are
Yeah.
going
It's
insane. And I'm
stupid.
like, why? Why is this
Why?
happening? Please don't do this to like Maxton Hall. Let me watch my show. The only, you know, Western show that I'm invested in.
So this
So
one, season one was shot in 2022 and obviously could have launched earlier, but then Prime was like wanted to bake in a pre-premiere marketing campaign,
Yeah.
which included like a
yeah.
big Berlin launch, and then they would take the cast of the US and everything. So there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
promo out there for
Mm-hmm.
season one because Prime was like, hey, I think we might have something here. And they gave
Yeah.
it a little more bandwidth marketing wise, which obviously paid off in spades because we got a season
Definitely.
two. It was very popular.
Yeah.
Um, I want to go back to why it looks so cinematic, and that's because they selected film directors.
Mm. That
Oh,
Yeah.
that
makes
makes
sense.
sense.
Yeah,
This
that
is a
makes sense.
yeah, this is a quote from Deadline. Selecting directors who would really lean into the emotions of the characters, which the producer Yildirim notes is a style not always seen in German storytelling, was a challenge. Martin Schreier, I'm gonna butcher all these names. I'm so sorry because they're all German and I'm not. Martin Schreier and Tedek Rollinger were brought on and directed 3 episodes each. This is a quote. We knew it had to feel high class. So, with our first director, Martin Schreier, we looked for someone who most of the time works in cinema because we needed this very glossy look and we needed it to be big and show these big emotions.
And
Yeah,
it did. Like
Yeah.
they
it
nailed every
does.
emotion and like every scene, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what it was, you could just feel it through the cinematography and the
I
Mm-hmm.
music
think,
and everything. It all just
yeah.
rolled into a big
Mm.
little present.
I
Yeah.
think
The
there's
they
something. I was just going to say there's definitely something to say about like film directors because they can achieve so much in such a short amount of time, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because like to do a movie only has a very limited amount of time. And to pull those emotions and to pull all of that out, like it there's something special about film directors, let's put it that way. So whenever it's really interesting to have a film director do like a drama because I feel like they bring a very interesting take onto the screen. And it tends to look really good. It tends to like make it look really good. And like Maxton Hall is definitely, up there with I don't know. To me, it looks really good. All of it, from start to finish. The shots, the way they use lighting, the way it just looks
Mm-hmm. The
good.
color grading, everything.
So
It just looks really
Absolutely.
crisp.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So should we rate this and get onto spoilers? Because I feel like
Oh, the one thing I want to talk about, which isn't spoiler territory, is was
Okay.
anyone else really confused about where this took place, where the story took place? Or was it just me?
I always assumed it was so the thing is basically I have actually read the author talk about it and it's supposed to take place in Germany. Like they are supposed to be in Germany. However, she's influenced by like schools and colleges of old in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So when like Maxton Hall is meant to be a school in Germany, I think, but they're meant to go over to the UK for like college and
That's what
whatnot.
I thought too, but that's wrong.
Yeah.
Wait, what? I
Oh,
thought the
is
same
it?
thing. Wait, what is it?
So it's a German language show set outside of Germany.
Oh,
Yeah, so
But
they're
where are they?
specifically in Gormsey, which is North Yorkshire, which is 4 to 5 hours away from London. That's
Oh,
where it's
okay.
set. And they're
mm,
just speaking German. Like that was what was throwing me was that everyone, even when they got to Oxford, was speaking German. And I was like, but are they
Yeah.
supposed to be
mm,
in Germany and then, take the English Channel over to the Isle? And I was completely thrown. But it wasn't until I read the article that I was
yeah.
like, oh, I'm wrong. Yeah.
I'm gonna be really interested to see because I don't think it's come up yet on the book, when I'm reading it. It's gonna be really interesting for me to see like especially the scenes when they do go to the colleges to visit, like how they do the traveling and whatnot, because I'm sure that will be in the book. So it'll be interesting to see like what's, done in the book compared
Yeah, they're
to
taking trains and cars. And like, I know
the
Europe is
show.
very connected, but they're doing it within the UK.
I see.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what they said in the article was that this has happened before. Like they've done this setup before where it's a German language show outside of Germany. It's
Mm,
supposed to be set outside of Germany, but everyone's speaking German. And they listed shows like Barcelona Crime. I don't
mm,
know. I don't know. And
no,
German adaptations of English novelist Rosamund Pilcher's novels. I don't know what those
no,
even are,
no
but
clue.
those are
No.
listed.
Interesting.
What is
Okay.
novel is having a German language series set in the UK resonate so strongly around the world. And this is what I wanted to like touch on, which I think connects with Asian dramas and, you know, the whole reason why we know each other. So, a phenomenon that possibly speaks to younger audiences not making viewing choices based on the language or location in which a project is rooted.
Mm,
And
mm,
I think that speaks to like where we don't speak Korean, we don't speak Mandarin, we don't speak all of these languages, but we are consuming that content.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it was very
Yeah.
easy for us to come in and watch Maxton Hall, even though it's considered a Western show. It's, not Asian in any way or
yeah,
Southeast
yeah.
Asian. But if we're not the only ones, like this thing was a phenomenon, right?
It was. It
Yeah.
was.
The same as people coming in and watching Squid Game and they've never seen a K drama before.
True.
Yeah,
That's so
exactly.
true.
Exactly.
So I
Exactly.
like this. I want to see it more often.
Me
Mm,
too.
mm. It's kind of like a lot of people were saying, it's kind of like how to a lot of people, for example, Boys Over Flowers is their first ever like Korean drama.
Yeah.
And if you really look at Boys Over Flowers and you really look at like Maxton Hall, you can sort of see the similarities.
They're
But
the
Maxton
same.
Hall,
Uh,
exactly. But Maxton Hall is just very like upclassed, so to speak, and done
Yes.
yeah.
because it's a 2024 show. Like, I mean, it was always going to be more upclassed, but the story is just told differently. And but if you realistically look at it, the tropes are the same. The tropes are exactly
Literally.
the
It's always
same.
like
So
poor girl, rich boy, elite
yeah,
school, enemies
yeah,
to
like
lovers.
it's
His
That's
family
all
just
owns the
there.
school.
this family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Oh my
literally
gosh.
all there. But Boys Over Flowers were, I think, way. I haven't watched it. I only watched like F4 Thailand, and
Why do I think that you've watched Boys Over Flowers?
I haven't.
I
I
did,
haven't.
but I dropped it. But then I did watch all of
Look,
F4 Thailand.
I I don't like I don't like Lee Min Ho. I don't like him. I don't like his acting, so I don't go out on my way to check out
Oh
any
my
of his
god.
dramas. I just don't. I feel like he's a wooden post in front of a screen, and that's about it.
Okay.
The only thing that I've watched him in and actually enjoyed it was Pachinko. That was it. That's it. That's the only drama that I've watched him in and like enjoyed.
I
So
can't I don't how do I put this? I get the slander for Imino, like I do, but because I grew up watching I hate to say grow up because I was grown when I started watching K dramas, but like over 10 years ago, his dramas were the first one. He's a gateway Hallyu star, and that will never go away from me. And I just feel like if you haven't watched City Hunter, you can't talk shit about Lee Min Ho because I love that
mm,
show and he's so good in it. And it demanded a lot from him. And I don't know, like you can watch Personal Taste, Boys Over Flowers, which is like the first thing he ever did, and have this opinion about him and about his stuff. You've watched The Heirs. That's not a good show. Like
yeah,
it's just
True.
you're
True.
watching the wrong things, I guess. And then you get to Pachinko,
yeah,
and I'm like, that's prestige television. That's prestige television. He earned the role. He had to audition. It's not like a K drama
yeah,
where he's just being given scripts and he's choosing.
yeah. I know.
It boggles my mind. They're like, I don't know. This is a whole
I don't
discussion,
know.
but
I have no
I don't
opinion
know.
about him. He's just there.
He's just there.
because I was thinking about this the other day and I was going to make a TikTok about it. And then I was like, I don't have my thoughts together. So now you're getting like the full force of like this thought process because there's so much hate for Lee Min Ho.
It's not that like I
There's
hate
so
him
much.
per
You're not.
se.
I'm not saying you hate him. I'm saying you touched a nerve because other people are really
Okay.
sour on Lee Min Ho.
I
No.
love
Like
that.
I don't necessarily
I'm
hate
turning
him.
red.
I just have like I don't know, maybe a preconceived notion about him, and what I've watched of him doesn't paint him in the best light, let's put it that way. Um but he's not like one of those actors or actresses that I will say, "Oh, he's in it, I won't watch it." Like he's not that for me, and there
Okay,
is a
you don't like
few.
actively avoid his projects.
No, I don't. But it's not like one of those actors that I will follow or anything like that, but I won't actively avoid his stuff either. So he's just like, I don't know, middle of the ground. I don't know.
I've only seen a
Like I
couple of his
said,
projects, and they weren't the good ones, so I can't really
yeah,
speak on
I think
this.
I was gonna say,
It's
I
like,
think
what
like
is it?
Just
Boy,
Boys Over Flowers and The
Boys Over
Heirs.
Flowers,
Like,
The
I think
Heirs.
that's it.
there's
No,
what else?
there's so much
There's
more.
gotta be more.
Legend of the Blue Sea. I dropped
Oh
that
yeah.
show.
I
It's
dropped
not
that
my
one
favorite.
too.
Oh
I
my
dropped
god.
that one as
All
well.
the time to me, and I'm like, what was the pacing? I was
What
so
is that?
confused in like
What
the
I was
first
yeah.
20 minutes. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but
So
I
Legend of the
dropped
Blue
that
Sea,
one.
to me, not a great project, not a great outing for him. Even though
No.
we got the iconic like disgusting shit like audio
True.
from that show.
True.
We have the King Eternal Monarch, trash.
Never
You can't
watched
tell
it.
me. You can't
Didn't
tell me
watch it.
otherwise.
Didn't
I
watch
don't
it.
care how good their chemistry is. I freaking hate that show. And then What else? Faith, not a great show. I watched that in 2012 as it was airing. Not a great show. So
Never seen it.
a lot of these are like shows, but that's why I say City Hunter was like it for me. Like it. And then it's not surprising to me that he's good in Pachinko.
Haven't watched
But
that
the
one
thing
either.
is,
Can't
right,
have
It's
it
just
right.
not surprising. People are like, wow.
The thing is, if he's that good in City Hunter, why does he do all of these crap shows? Like,
These are older, mind you. Faith 2012, Personal Taste 2010, King Eternal Monarch. No excuse for that one. That one's 2020. But it has a good screenwriter. I think the King Eternal Monarch has a famous screenwriter, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if he got the full script beforehand. He probably got episodes 1 and 2, and then
guys,
it just went off the rails.
we were talking about a Western show.
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh
God,
shit.
right?
We were talking about Maxton Hall.
I just needed to get us back on the roof.
No, thank you. So anyway,
I was like,
we'll take
Right. We'll take ratings now, shall we? Shall we take ratings?
Maxton
Yes.
Hall. Who?
Maxton.
We are talking
The German
about
show.
classic K-dramas now.
Anyway.
Look. I said at the beginning of the episode, this is going to be a free-for-all chaotic mess.
You're right.
Listen at
You
your
knew.
will.
You knew.
I mean, I said what I said. So people, they know what to expect by now. They've listened enough to know that it isn't a tea and soju episode if we don't at least have 2 or 3 diversions in other completely different directions. That's just how it goes.
You started it. You brought up Boys Over Flowers though, and then you shit on Lee Min-ho, so I had to like jump in.
I didn't shit on it.
You said I don't like Lee Min-ho.
Should we get back? Should we
Let's
table
do
this
it. Let's do it.
Let's talk about what we felt about Maxton Hall and what we would rate that.
Yeah, should we just rate it and then we can just like start spoiling the heck out of it? Because
Absolutely.
right.
I'm here for that. Yes.
Right. So one teacup it was something I watched. It wasn't good, but something made me finish. 2 teacups, the okay ones. Dramas I don't really recommend, but they were an okay background watch. 3 teacups, the enjoyable ones, good dramas. They were enjoyable and I would recommend to people who enjoy this genre. 4 teacups, the loved ones. These are dramas that I really loved. There might be a couple of problems with it, but overall a really enjoyable drama that I would recommend to a wider audience. And then 5 teacups. These are the rose glass no faults dramas. What I mean by that is this rating is reserved for those dramas that you love so much that you are willing to ignore any problems they might have. So I actually, this is going to be a diversion, but I need to throw this in there. Yesterday,
Okay.
it ties back in with like the rating system because people keep asking me like, I say I love these shows, but I won't score them a 5. And I was like, look, the 5 are my, and I could not find the words. And you know what I remembered? I remember you just talking about like your Mount Rushmore of dramas.
Yeah, Mount Rushmore dramas.
Yeah. And I was like, look.
What's on your Mount Rushmore? Those are the 5s.
Exactly. So I was like, I had to bring that up because it's like, your 5s is what Jess calls like her Mount Rushmore of dramas. Exactly. So,
yep.
With Jess, what would you rate this drama?
Oh, me first after all the shit I was talking. Okay. So I would give it 4 teacups out of 5.
What about you, Becky?
Teacups out of 5. And you in the teacup description, you say how you would recommend it to a wider audience. I was in a meeting with some coworkers, and one of my coworkers was going on a trip to Germany. And I said, "Oh my God, you have to watch Maxton Hall."
They have to.
I was like, "You gotta watch Maxton Hall. It's so great." And I told her like the Spark Notes, which is, it's a high school romance, that rich boy, a poor girl. Like I just listed the tropes. Yeah. And she was like, "Oh, okay." And she's older than me with children. She came back from Germany and we had another meeting. And she was like, "Hey, Jess, before we start this meeting, I have to say, I watched Maxton Hall on the plane and I loved it." And I was like, "Oh my God."
That's so perfect.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that
I
is.
also
Becky.
recommended it to a coworker, but I'm more annoying about it because like she loves reading books and I love reading. So we talk about books sometimes, but then I was like,
Mhm.
okay, this is a show based off of a book. I think you'll love it. I think it's really good. And like every week I'm like, so did you watch Maxton again? And this has
Oh
been
no.
going on for like a month. But she says she will, and I'm just waiting for her to. But she also was watching Bridgerton. We were talking about that and all of
Mm.
that jazz. But
Mhm.
I think I would rate it 4 teacups. I want to say like maybe because I was thinking about it, like there were no shoot like I said, I didn't have any problems with this drama. Even when they started like pushing tropes I normally am like stay away from, I actually was like, wow, that's really they did that well. And I think it was like an empowering moment for one of the characters when they did that. But
Mm.
I think probably like four out of five. But it was just such an enjoyable watch. Like I was the same as you, Liliana. I binged it. But then I had to go to sleep. That was the worst part because it was like right on the
This is
like
so
the
hyped up, aren't you?
suspenseful. Every
Yeah,
single
yeah,
episode had a
yeah.
cliffhanger. Like you couldn't
It
just
It's like a
did.
stop
K-drama.
watching it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And it was just so hard to put down, but then I had to, and then the next morning I finished it. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I mean, they add in tropes you aren't expecting because like you expect the general tropes that you're seeing in the first couple of episodes. But in the last couple of episodes, I was like, we get this one too. Like I
I
was having a
know.
great time.
Yeah. So I would also agree. I would also say 4 teacups. So we're all in
What?
agreement.
Fours across the board.
Yeah, yeah. I would also say 4 teacups, I think. I just loved it. And do you know what? I had a lot of fun watching it. And at the end of the day, that's all you can ask from a drama is that you enjoy it while you're watching. And if it gets you excited and if it gets you like rushing to talk to your friends about it, because I remember Becky finished it and she messaged me pretty much like
I was like,
straight away.
I got one.
Yeah, well, because we were talking about it previously, and I was like almost gonna say something. She's like, no, 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 don't spoil it. I haven't finished it yet. So, if something gets you excited to talk to your friends about it, then to me, that's a job well done on it.
Hmm.
It
I
Yeah.
agree.
distracts you away from your life for a couple of hours. Great. That's what we need. It is entertainment, and that's exactly what this show delivered. So, that's it, guys. Let's go to spoilers because, spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched this, go watch it, come back. If you have watched it, keep listening. And if you don't mind spoilers, keep listening. So, guys, did you see what I wrote in the doc about this part? Because I just wrote, just let chaos take over. Let's talk scene swoony moments, whatever comes to mind. That is my exact quote from my notes for this. So, spoilers are on the table wherever you want to start. Should we start with some scenes? Do we want to go episode by episode? Do we want to go, should we do it that way? That might be sort of the
I
easiest.
mean, episode by episode is easy because it's only 6 episodes. So
Yeah, so
True.
I think we should
True.
go episode by episode. So, episode one, right? First of all, we meet our main characters, obviously, and she walks into James Beaufort's sister. I can't remember her name now.
Lydia.
What
Her
is
name
it?
is
Lydia.
Lydia.
Lydia. Yeah, she walks into Lydia having well, it's not really an
It
affair,
was
but a
like a
real
Pretty Little Liars moment. If you guys have seen the
yeah,
show
yeah.
Pretty Little Liars,
Yes,
it was like
yes.
Ezra and Arya all over again. I was like, oh,
She's basically having a rendezvous with her teacher in the office. And that's basically the root of this show. This is where it all starts.
I didn't
Um,
read the book beforehand, but I did clock that there was something between her and the teacher
same.
before
oh,
they had
it's
that
so
scene.
obvious.
Because
Oh,
the way
yeah.
they're
So
talking,
obvious.
and
Yeah.
No, there's
she's like,
something.
there's no consequences. Like very like, excuse me, girl,
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
front of your class, calm it down.
It was
Wild.
so
Yeah.
obvious, so
Hmm.
obvious. I will say, guys, her story gets way more complicated. Like her
Oh, it
story in
does.
like book 2 and book 3 gets way, way more
Wait, more
complicated.
complicated than it does in the
Yeah,
show? Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
Okay.
Her story takes a wild left turn, and yeah, you get to see a lot more from her in the later books, I believe, but I haven't, like I said, I haven't gotten into those. So, what captured you in episode 1 straight away? Let's go down that route.
I was an academic overachiever, so I'm always going to connect to a female lead who is an academic overachiever and she wants to go to Oxford. That's her dream, right? So I like this that she's driven, she's smart, and she's really poor, which is always like a good recipe to start with.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think what was interesting, I thought in episode was one was that they introduced her sister, which I didn't clock that it was her sister initially because they look nothing alike. They don't have the same features.
Yeah, no.
But and I also thought that she was going to her friend's house and that they were not she just sticks out like a sore thumb from her family. Like the casting maybe was not the best there to match them up, but whatever. I really enjoyed her family life, how she comes from a loving home, how her father is talking to her about books and philosophy and like exchanging books with their daughter. Like that was like a whole new concept for me. Like I've never exchanged a book with my dad in my life. So that itself was really cool to see that she's coming from like an intellectual background where her passions are fostered and she has this beautiful, overweight, confident sister. And like that threw me too. I was like, I love seeing this character. It's so rare that you see this kind of character who is not preoccupied at all with the way that she looks.
Yeah. She doesn't give a flying toss.
I'm like, we see this all the time in real life. Why don't we see it on screen?
It was refreshing.
Yes.
Yeah, it was so refreshing because realistically speaking, like I said, I only watch Asian dramas 99.9% of the time, and everybody is very small, very skinny, and those dramas very thin. It's a whole new world. Like it was so fun for me to kind of like be thrown back into a Western show where you kind of see different body types and different I don't know, different hairs, different people in general. But I really really liked that aspect of it as well. And like I said, her family life is
beautiful,
so good. It's
the
beautiful
support system.
the support, yes. The charming cottage. I mean, it is a charming cottage that they live in.
I was taking wallpaper notes because I loved how it was decorated. The dad in the wheelchair, like that was another thing, another aspect to their whole dynamic was that the father basically is relegated to the downstairs level.
Yeah.
Because they don't his his lift broke.
Chair lift is broken.
A couple months after he got it too. So like you have to imagine it's been like years since he's even gone upstairs. It's so sad. And then like she has this guilt, just eating away at her all the time. And,
right, which we find out more about that.
Episode 3, that's when we find it out.
Yes. But it gives new meaning. It gives a lot of context to where she's coming from and how she has a lot of pride for the way that she lives.
Yeah.
And she rejects his bribe money in episode 1. And you're kind of like, but you need that. You're working part-time. You're doing all these things to try and save money to get a new lift chair.
Like literally, but she has all these morals and she stands on them, and it's so nice to see that it's not just like her being like, no, you're rich, I don't like you. She's like, no, I mean, I do need this money, but I have these morals and I'm gonna continue to have them and not change them just for money.
Right.
Yeah I very much agree. I think she has her belief system and she sticks to it, and she doesn't want to bend that belief system. And I think it comes from the fact that she comes from a very loving home. And I think that's one of the comparisons and a drastic, these shows always do this, but it's like the poor girl that has no money in essence, but has this big ultimate drive to succeed. And she makes up, like, the no money is made up by the fact that she comes from this very loving, very supporting family. Whereas on paper, like the male lead, James Bulford, has everything, has the world at his feet, but has no parental love in a way, and is trapped in like this toxic family. So these shows always do this, and it's very, very, very obvious, I think, from episode one, where they set up. I think, is it episode one or episode two where he does try to bribe her?
I think
can't
it's
remember.
episode 1 that
Yeah,
he tries
yeah.
to bribe her.
Episode 1.
And and it's the fact, and this is a classic scene, not that necessarily his bribing her, but it's the fact that he's like, how dare you speak back to me? But he's so intrigued because she's just like,
he's shocked by her indignance, like he's like, what? How? Why wouldn't she?
Yeah. He's just
I also
like,
found it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, why he's just thinking, why aren't you bowing down to me? Like, I'm James Bulford sort of situation. So, and she's just like, yeah, and I don't really care.
Yeah, because her world is not based
Yeah.
on a hierarchy. Her world is not based on power dynamics, but his is. And I really liked how this was surprising to me that she also rejected the teacher's recommendation. Like the teacher that she found canoodling with the sister or the twin. I thought for sure she was still going to take that rec, but she didn't. And I was like, like I was thrown with that in episode 1. Where she was like, if this comes out, like this is useless. Your recommendation is useless.
It's useless to me. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also coming from like a point of integrity from her, because she's also thinking, well, that recommendation can be said to be like hush money in a sense. Yeah. So she's like, I'm not going to take it. I'm going to take, it's tainted to me now. Even though he had written it and he had like everything he had said, like the teacher had said, everything I wrote in this recommendation is true, even prior to like you finding out, but she still doesn't want it. And I really, really, really liked that about her and her character. And she's like, I'm just going to walk the tougher path and I'm going to do it, some other way. I'm still going to get there. I'm just going to take like this little detour for now. So yeah, it's like it packs a punch. A lot happens in episode 1, like to completely set everything
we
up.
do see the male lead just shirtless from day 1, and I was
constantly
in the bed scene, like when it first opens up,
when he wakes up,
watching. Oh my gosh, I want to say, so when I was rewatching,
tell me this isn't a K-drama.
That's
waiting,
right,
exactly.
So I thought it was interesting that they kind of teased, like, or kind of made it seem like there could be a second male lead, like right in the beginning. With
the guy that was like,
But the thing is, so my friend literally, she's like, oh wow, like the second male lead, I like him better. He's already nicer to her, and I'm like, well, how do I? Nope, it's not a second. But like, it was kind of interesting that they didn't try to trick the audience more with that. They just immediately were like, no, he likes men. He's not. He has no interest in Ruby. So that was interesting that they didn't try to play on that.
Alistair is, I think, the name of the character.
Yeah. Well, there is the guy that is after her that is also in the party committee or whatever. Yes.
It's like hanging off her.
Yeah. So but she's just like, I have zero interest in you, like none at all whatsoever.
She doesn't even give him a chance, and he is just like always there for her. He's like, I can do this, I can do that, like I'm here, and she's just like,
no, thank you.
Okay, like all right. So probably when James comes into her life, he gets even more. He's just like, what the heck? I've been doing everything. But
I will say I was into the show, but the end of episode 1, I was like, whew, I got chills because James is on the lacrosse field playing his little game. Alistair got kicked out of the game, and she starts striking up a quick little combo with Alistair. He sees it from the field. Oh my God. That was like enough, like the whiff of like jealousy that I was. Oh, it was so triggering. But then he comes off the field. You get the classic, like she bumps into him. And so they're like really close to each other. Like their faces are really close. And he threatens her. He's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. He was. But
the fire in his eyes And the
Mm.
chemistry that was felt in that scene, I was like,
That's
this is only going to get less toxic as we keep going, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, it
Yeah.
just felt like she is such a upright character,
Mm-hmm.
of upright moral character, that she's only going to do good things for this dude because he's so needy. Like,
true.
as an
Yeah.
audience, you're
Yeah.
seeing how needy he is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
Mm-hmm.
already interested in her because she rejects the way that he lives and what he values. And
Yeah.
deep down, he knows it's wrong. Like, the way he's living is not great.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
The way he
Yeah.
was brought up,
Yeah.
not great.
I will say, I also quite liked the fact that from episode 1 get go,
Yeah.
we are shown like a really, really strong relationship between the siblings, whether it be Ruby and her sister, whether it be James and Lydia, like
Mm,
especially more so James and Lydia, because
yeah.
these two will bat for each other completely. And like, yes, they don't have parental love, but these two, like, they truly love each other like nobody's
Yeah.
business. And it's like, it's probably the only reason the two of them have survived that toxic family
But they're
is because
twins,
they
right?
have
Did I
each
read that
other.
wrong? Are they
Are they
fraternal twins or no?
I don't
I
remember.
no, I think she's older than him. I think Lydia is older than him because the only reason I say
It
that
was
is
strange for them
because
to be going to Oxford at basically graduating at the same time. So I was like, oh, are they twins?
yeah, I think she's only slightly oh, it might be that they're twins, but because at one point, remember she kind of says that rightfully the business should go to her because she's like older, but it's going to him because he's the man. I think they have a discussion about that
Oh,
like
yeah.
slightly
I
later.
don't know if I picked up on that she was
I don't think I picked
older.
that up either. I don't
Yeah.
think I even picked up anything with their ages. The thing
Maybe.
that I thought was really interesting with their relationship is like even though obviously she's upset that he's going to be the face of the company, like she's still, she's still there. She's still supportive. Like you said, their relationship, like they will bat for each other. But also it's the fact that like we gradually see scenes of him and his dad, and then we start to really understand that his dad is literally just using him as a pawn for his
Mm.
business in everything. And it's so sad, that golf scene. Oh my gosh. Like
Oh,
he
that was
was
painful.
It's
he
so
was
sad.
riding with his dad, so excited. He's like, "Oh my gosh, my dad wants to go golfing like the old,
Mm.
like, it's so fun and wow, like he
Mhm.
cherishes me," and then is literally like, get along with that man's
I think
daughter.
this is episode 2 or something.
Yeah,
We might be in the next
sorry, I got it.
episode.
I hopped
Yeah,
No,
into the
that's
yeah, we
next
fine.
can
That's
just go
fine.
to the
episode.
next episode, yeah. And
But
the thing is, that scene specifically as well, it's the fact that Lydia really wanted to go. Like Lydia was like, "Oh,
yeah.
I would like to go golfing." And he's like, "No, not today. Like I'm just taking him." And he also you can also see the uh like James being torn because he really wants to go and golf with his dad, but he kind of like doesn't want to step on Lydia's toes either. And
Mhm.
he ends up going because
Yeah.
she's just like, I'm fine. We have to do
This
what he
is
says.
nonverbal communication, by the way. Like, they're not
Yeah,
asking, like, "Are you
yeah.
okay? Whatever. Is it
No,
okay if
Yeah.
I still go
no,
with dad?"
They just
no.
They're
look
just
at
giving
each
each other
other.
looks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's all done through looks. And I'm like, how many times have they been through situations like this where with one look they can communicate with each other so well? It's like nobody knows them better than, each other at that point. So yeah, I think that's like a doubly sad scene, not only because Lydia, like on one hand, really just wanted to spend some time with her dad as well, but or just wanted to go and be seen and didn't get to go, and then like you get there and you find out, well, James is just being used as a pawn here too. So it's horrendous. The dad is just like a piece
Her
of
dad is
crap.
awful.
He's the
The
villain.
Yeah, he's like
He
the
really is.
antagonist for sure. The word that I heard on the street, I guess, on online was that people thought the dad was really cartoonish. Like he was just like over the top villain,
Hmm.
evil, out to
I
get
mean,
his kids. And I'm like, okay, yes, it's a part of the trope, like a disapproving parent,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
part of a trope.
Maybe
But
we're just
also,
used
I
to it because
didn't
we
feel that way at all, that he was
no.
Me either.
over
He's
the
just
top. I don't
an
know, like this
abusive,
environment.
power-hungry man. That's what it
Yeah,
is. Like,
exactly. And especially in beginning of episode 2 where you get that flashback of him playing chess with his son, who's a child. It's
yes.
not even like an older preteen kid or whatever. It's him as a child, James as a child, and he still wins against him and uses it as a teachable moment. And the one thing that he says to James is, "He who lays down his weapons perishes." And in a sense, he's building up James to be not to never let his guard down,
Yeah.
to be averse to being vulnerable with people. Because if you let your guard down, if you put down your weapons, you're gonna perish. You're gonna lose something. Things are black and white in winning or losing with the dad.
Yeah. And then he's also, I mean, he's also making him trust, his dad more and not trust anyone else. So then, he can use him as he pleases as he gets older and like make sure that he takes over the business and does his part in what he's supposed to do. It's just so messed up. All of it's so
It's
messed
so
up.
messed up. And I love the voiceover from James. After that scene, you see him kind of getting ready and like putting on his shirt. It's a buttoning up his stuff to go to school. And he has this voiceover where he's talking about pride. And he says pride indicates status. Every person on earth who has their place like pieces on a chessboard. Pawns can fight their whole lives to become king, but only those born as kings know what the position really means. But we're also the most vulnerable. To maintain your position, you have to move pieces aggressively forward. Beaufort won't be bossed around.
Yeah. And I think also in that scene, as he's doing that like voiceover and as he's getting dressed, it's almost like him putting a mask on to like go out into the world. And I loved that aspect of it because because as the episodes go on and Ruby starts to pull his layers back and starts to peek at like this damaged person that's inside him, you get to see a whole different, James in a sense. And yeah, he definitely wears a mask and he wears his status as his mask. But that's what he's been brought up to be in an essence.
To be
So
impenetrable.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's like he discovers his emotions with Ruby. Like he realizes he can be vulnerable and he can have these feelings that he's never felt before. And like they even go into that a little bit later. So it's really cool to watch.
Yeah, I really liked that voiceover. And you immediately get this sense that the Beaufort family is a family that thrives off of power and seduction. And it's the family culture is competition. It's their brand.
Yeah.
And it is really nice, like going back to the sibling bond that him and Lydia have, that they are not actively competing against each other.
No.
Yeah.
They've made this decision not to, because the family and the way that the dad treats them and the way that he stole Lydia's idea and gave it to James and all this stuff, that would make them hate each other. And that would foster competition. But they don't give into that.
Yeah. But we do see he does start to get a competition with Ruby, and that's when he starts doing all these things to like get at her. And then of course Ruby's morals come out high, and then he's just like, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? Because then it's like the first time someone hasn't like tried to actively like beat him down in competition when he keeps going at them. And they're like, you know what? I'm gonna lay my sword down. And he's like, what?
Yeah, because so in episode 2 they basically host a party and she's in charge of it, and if everything goes really well with the party, she will get the recommendation letter from like the director of the school.
Oh, that's episode 1.
Yeah,
is that episode 1?
Yeah.
Oh god, I get so like episode 1, and then like you can just see his pettiness coming out because he is a very petty person.
But so am I. So I don't think that's that toxic, okay?
No,
like,
no, I
hiring strippers.
That was over the top. Like that was crazy.
That was over the top. Yeah.
And then I didn't think he was going to do something with that picture. I'm really happy he didn't. I was so worried the picture that he took of Ruby and the teacher.
Oh, of her and the teacher.
Something?
Yeah. No.
Oh God.
Liliana, don't.
The picture comes back.
No, it doesn't.
Picture comes back. It does. It does come back. It is not him that uses it, but it does come back. He
Oh
does come
I was
back.
worried about that because I'm like, then nothing happened, so that's great. But now
It does. It
you have me
does.
worried. No
It
wonder they put
does.
it in there because it's gonna resurface again
Yeah.
in the second season.
All right.
It does.
No,
But
So
we
basically,
also we have to talk about the Oxford prep course fight that they have in
oh
episode
my
2.
oh
gosh.
yes,
We
yes.
had because this is I thought it was so it reminded me of like Gilmore Girls or something because the dialogue was so snappy and quick. And you get stuff from everybody before you dial it into them to, snipping back and forth.
Yeah.
And first of all, the Oxford prep course seems like a philosophy course to me, but okay, fine. Let's call it an Oxford prep course. They're talking about feelings and emotions and rationality and how they relate to each other. And I think it was like I think I started paying attention when the sister started talking because the sister says, if I act according to principles that I think are rational, but I suffer for it, are my actions rational? And I was like, oh my God, because it so totally relates to her story and
Really,
being
it
with the
does.
teacher and everything. It's like considered wrong, but
Yeah.
it's making her feel bad to not act on that. So is she being rational because she's hurting herself, right?
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
That alone, really great. But then Ruby Bell jumps in and says, I would never consider an action that made me or someone else suffer to be rational. Because she is such a rational person.
Yeah.
We've already seen
Exactly.
this. She's like
Yeah,
taking the
yeah,
rational
yeah.
route the whole time. And this is when James jumps in and starts like going for the jugular. He says the one pays if you have 2 jobs, for example, one pays more, but you think you'd be happier in the lower paid job, the rational decision would be to take the better job, the better paid job. And that we can unpack that too, which is like
Money.
he's money.
Cares about money. Yeah.
Cares about money. But he's also listing like he's talking about lower and higher paying job and a lower paying job. Can also be talking about class, right? Like she is definitely of a lower status, a lower class than he is. And we understand that there's something cooking here. There's a romance cooking. She's going to make him happy. And it ties into the golf thing that he went with his dad and he's trying to hook him up with this other family's daughter who's like a bitch and everything. And she would be the higher paying job.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. In this scenario. So then we cut back. Ruby's like, unsurprisingly, you're motivated by money. And he goes, first of all, anytime someone starts with first of all in an argument, some shit's about to go down. So he starts talking. First of all, you don't know me. People won't be interested in you if you don't have money. This is his. And she says, if you're told that from birth, of course you'll say that nothing else matters. Pretty pathetic, actually. So personal. It starts getting so personal in this freaking classroom.
It does.
So hard in front of everyone.
In
like
front
these
of
are his
everyone.
friends. These are their classmates.
Yes,
the teacher. Like it is so intense.
The teacher's like, okay, like discussion's fine, but personal attacks won't be allowed or whatever. So James comes back with interesting view from your tower of moral superiority, which is like, ooh, he's not wrong.
He's touched enough. He's touched enough.
She says, I don't go through life thinking I'm superior and can treat other people like trash. Again, hearkening back to their tete-a-tetes like this whole time and the way he threw money at her, try to make the problem go away with his sister.
Yeah.
And he says, you try controlling others without money. How's that going for you? Again, bringing up like this theme of control and who has control in a relationship, who has control in life. And in this larger, there's a microcosm. The school is a microcosm of the world
life
at large.
Itself,
Life itself. Yeah. And Ruby said, this is when Ruby like goes for the jugular. She says, I feel sorry for you. Do you want to spend your whole life representing wealth to which you have contributed absolutely nothing? With so much money, there's no need for your own ideas. Again, touching the nerve, because we just found out Lydia came up with the whole concept of young Beaufort. And he's just the face of it. Yeah, he's stealing. Essentially, I mean, in a roundabout way, he's stealing it, stealing her work. So he hasn't contributed anything for this idea. And she goes on, your inheritance, your little pranks, it just shows how empty you are. And that's why no one will ever be interested in you. Only your money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So rough.
And
It's
it's like
rough.
mic drop, mic drop. And the thing is, this is why you can't say a drama like this is trashy, because the dialogue is just so insanely good,
It's
and
written so well.
they touch on a lot of things that, yeah, on the surface, if you look on the surface, this is a trope, rich guy, poor girl, whatever. But you dig a little deeper and you look at the dialogue and you think this could be applicable to a lot of situations in life in general. And like their little back and forth here is just so well done. And it circles back up when they go to Oxford and they have that blow up in the
Yes.
classroom again.
Oh my
And it's
gosh.
like they go toe to toe arguing each other. And it's like, it's because they love each other that they can hurt each other so much with their words. And
Hmm.
it's like the dialogue in this throughout the whole drama, but specifically in scenes like this, is just so good, so
Hmm.
good.
And then he storms off because he's like,
He storms out
I'm
of the
I've had
mad.
room.
enough.
He's like,
I'm
that's so
done.
rude. But I mean, she
Yeah.
struck a nerve because she was right. And
She was right. Yeah.
that's the thing that's the most interesting about that. But
Hmm.
And I think she also just struck a nerve at exactly the right time, so to speak, because of,
true.
what we had just seen happen before. So I think he went on the defense very quickly, and
Yeah.
she was just like, she hit him where it hurts the most. So
Hmm.
so yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like he can't deny it because it's true. Like
And you
it's
can
not like
see
what
like
she's
his
saying.
face just changing from someone who is letting it slide, like someone who's
Mhm.
entertained at the prospect of arguing in a class,
Yeah.
to someone who is completely devastated by what she's
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
because it is
yeah,
true.
But no one will tell him
yeah.
that too, because he's
Right.
so high up in the school and everyone respects him. Like you can even see like when his group of friends and the boys are around and they're kind of like, what is he doing? That's not our James. They still respect and do things and they still like, there's a
Mhm.
hierarchy there. And so people don't necessarily tell him the truth all the time and they're not like, hey, you're being a terrible person right now, or you're,
Mhm.
and I think they just do it so well. And gosh, the arguments are just intense.
Super
So
intense. But
good.
she realizes that she took it too far.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, she
The end
did.
of the
She did.
episode is when she goes to apologize to him when he's on the lacrosse fields. And I
Hmm.
was like, this is a wonderful scene, because even though the
So
dialogue
good.
isn't spicy like the argument is, their interaction is like I call it K-drama crack if this was a K-drama, but
Mhm.
it's not
Mhm.
K-drama. It's just straight crack. It's just straight like romance crack, because she's being vulnerable and apologizing, and as soon as she apologizes, his whole demeanor
It
changes.
changes,
It does.
changes.
The little
It's like he opens up
smile.
immediately. Yeah.
And I think it's also the fact that, yes, she's very high and mighty on her morals, but she's not afraid to recognize when she's wrong. And I don't
Exactly.
think he's used to people doing that at all,
Hmm.
because people don't really, first of all,
She
they don't
showed
even
weakness, and this goes back to that
exactly.
whole conversation of like the she put down her weapons,
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, she
her
did. She
words,
did.
and her feelings. They're her weapons, and she used them in that argument to his detriment, and she puts them
And
down when she
yeah,
apologizes at the end of the episode, and he's like, wow,
Like this is a
yeah.
thing people can
shocked.
do.
And
Hmm.
the thing is, that is the turning point for them,
Oh
because
yeah.
after that, the banter just gets so good. It's the fact that like she walks off the field and he says, "Oh, say hi to the president of the school for me," and she just flips him off
Flicks him off.
over her
So good.
shoulder, and
But she
I'm just like.
smiles while doing it.
She
Like it's
smiles,
Yeah.
exactly.
playful.
It's like it's the banter that comes in afterwards. So basically, then we have episode 4 where,
Oh,
they go
episode
into
3
episode
with the
3.
London
Yes.
trip.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Episode 3, which for me is like one of my favorite episodes, I think. It just has so many good scenes, especially like the scene of him taking her to London for the dress fitting. because she needs a dress to wear for a poster and then the dance.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
That was so cute.
it's so swoony. Like that whole
This is the
scene
swooniest. Oh God, this
is
scene.
And
just
then the
so
texting,
swoony.
like they're
No,
texting
they're
back and forth, gets
flirting.
so
No.
flirty and so
Yeah.
fun. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we just
I
have
love a
his
good,
father.
I have to say, I love a good like makeover scene where she comes down the stairs and he's looking up at her.
Yes.
You will never catch me skipping over that. So
No,
this
no.
happens when she tries on Queen Victoria's replica dress,
Yeah.
and the way he's looking at her in awe, he's like shook up with her in the dress, her beauty, and he's just looking at her so tenderly for the rest of the scene.
So true.
There's so much vulnerability and openness in his eyes.
Yeah.
Again, very
Yeah.
expressive. No, I can't. I can't.
And
It's a fave.
you know, he's playing the piano and it's just like
So
Please.
such a
tender.
beautiful scene
Such a
until
tender
until
scene.
his father
Don't
walks
even.
in and
Ruins
it's
it.
like ruins the whole freaking scene.
So
And
terrible.
it's the way that he also just puts Ruby down in that scene as if like to say, why is a peasant wearing a queen's dress in a
That's
sense?
exactly what he's
That's
insinuates.
Such a
Yeah.
that's
terrible
exactly
man.
what he's insinuating. So it is horrendous.
He said
Um
like the dress was tied around her breasts, and I was like, I come again? What did you say? Like
why are you even looking at her breasts to start off
Making
with?
terrible comments. What a
and he
Yeah.
started a sentence with no offense and then proceeds to
To
completely
offend her.
humiliate her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't ever start a
So
sentence with no offense.
no, it never
You
leads to
mean
good
complete
things.
It's gonna be offensive no
Yeah.
matter
Yeah.
what.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So I absolutely agree. But then we have the party scene because this must be talked about. This scene is like
Okay, but wait. Before that, I really want to talk
Mhm.
about real fast that he shows up at her house to apologize for the way he behaved on Saturday because he
Oh
just
yes,
shuts down. When his
yes,
dad got there,
he
he just like
does.
shut
Yeah.
He
down.
does.
And she, first of all, I like that he came to her house, her
Mhm.
turf essentially, to
Mhm.
apologize, and that's after she came to his turf, where his
Yeah.
safe
Yeah.
space, the lacrosse field, to apologize. So I like
Yeah.
that parallel in the two episodes.
Mhm.
And he looks like he's gonna cry the whole time he's apologizing and talking to her about the posters, how she shouldn't try to feel invisible anymore. And she's maintaining they need to go back to how they were before, where he didn't know anything about her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's again so much vulnerability there, and it's addictive. Like once you see it, you're like, I need to see it more.
Yeah.
Like, give
Yeah.
me 10 more of those,
Give
please.
me
Thank
10
you.
more immediately. And then he gives her the archival dress, like the replica Queen Victoria dress.
Mhm.
And the note, I can't. The note says this dress was made for you. Just
Yeah.
200 years too early. Wear it to the
Yeah.
fundraising gala. You look too beautiful in it not to. And I have in
He's
my notes all
I
caps,
know.
help me. Help
he's
me.
such a romantic, and that's the thing. Like
He's
his
so
romantic side
romantic.
just gets so much bigger as the episodes go on, and you see how much he really cares for Ruby.
Yes. And it's so meaningful because his dad was literally putting her down because she is too low class, didn't know her place. She's wearing a queen's
Mhm.
dress and he gifts it to her. Like, it's like,
So sweet.
come on. Okay. Then the house party.
So good. The house party, where I think Moth to a Flame by The Weekend will never be the same for me ever again.
Nope.
Because
No.
basically he invites her to a house party with all of his like uppity rich friends. And he doesn't know if she's going to show up or not. And she decides to go. And first of all, she has this interaction with Lydia where Lydia kind of says, I hope you're happy up there. It's all over between me and the teacher. And then Lydia kind of turns to her, look, James and I protect each other, and, that's never going to change. So that's like her little interaction. And then she's like, after that, I feel like you can see in her that she feels so out of her depth. Like doesn't seem comfortable there. That's not her scene. And I feel like she's turning away. And then obviously she runs into James, and their eyes just do so much
Like just
talking.
okay, that scene, that moment that you're talking about where she looks so insecure all of a sudden comes on the heels of her doing her voiceover, which she says things like, the thing is, once you've been seen, really seen, you might realize you're not as harmless and helpless as you thought, that you have spikes under the camouflage and you don't have to hide in the shadows. And that's like that confidence that he instilled in her. He gave her a queen's dress.
Yeah.
He came and apologized. He said, you're not invisible to me.
Yeah.
You're not invisible anymore to me. And that whole thing plays into, they see each other. In the midst of all this like nonsense and the school and the friends and the scene, they see each other and they understand each other. And that's what she's playing at. And he's also given her this sense of confidence that she is worthy. And that's like playing out why she wants to be invisible, is because she doesn't want others to point out she's not worthy enough to be there.
Yeah.
She doesn't deserve this or whatever. And he tells her, like, in all of these actions, he's telling her, like, you are worthy. You can wear a queen's dress. You deserve to be there. Please come to this party and everything. And it's instilled in her all this bravery. And she shows up to the party. And then like the sister kind of gets in there, and you see that she's kind of losing her footing a little bit. But then he's right behind her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have that
and the
dance
thing
montage.
is, yeah, and they have the dance. And it's just like, I don't even know. It's just so good because their eyes do a lot of talking, their bodies do a lot of talking. There's like no talking, and it's a direct.
There's no talking.
There's no talking, and there's like a direct comparison because with Lydia, she almost lost her footing a little bit, but then that James is besides her, and then they have somebody. What I think it's the girl that's supposed to be engaged to James, or that his
she was on the golf
Yeah, the
course,
golf
and
girl.
she accidentally, in quotation, marks, but very much on purpose, throws a glass of wine all over sort of Ruby, or a glass of water, or whatever it may be.
I think it
And
was
in
just
that
clear
instance,
liquor.
yeah, in that instance, like, Ruby stands her ground, and it's not only does she have James by her side, just kind of being like quietly giving her support in a sense,
Yeah.
but she sort of finds herself again and the courage to sort of be like, it's fine, whatever. So I really like that little moment as well, and then it leads into the bloody scene that is all over TikTok over and over and over.
The pool scene.
But like
the pool scene.
he also immediately is like, let's go. Let's
Yeah.
leave. Like
Yeah.
he's like,
Yeah,
I'm
We're
gonna leave
done.
all my
Yeah.
friends and everything. We're gonna have a better time somewhere else. Like, let's
I'm
cheer you
done.
up. But then the pool scene happens. Oh
My God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, so that scene is just everything. Because so she fell into the water, and that's like how
But
her
she was
dad
thrown
trying
in
to
there.
save her. Yeah.
literally.
No. I mean, as a child. So she has a
Oh,
bit
yeah,
of
no,
trauma of
this is when we
going
hear about her
her
trauma.
story. Yeah. But so she's scared of water, but one of his friends like throws her into the pool, and she is not surfacing. And then James jumps in, and it's like everybody's cheering for him and whatnot. And then they surface, and it's just like a drastic 180 turn that everybody quietens down because they can see how afraid she is. She's truly terrified.
Yeah.
And then it leads to James giving his friend one of the like scariest looks, as you are absolutely on my hit list right now. Don't even come near me right now. And even Lydia is like, stop recording, don't record this anymore. So and then it leads into the car scene where she finally tells. I love that scene because she's so incredibly vulnerable with him. In that scene, she just like lays it all down, and she breaks down completely, and he is right there to sort of like just catch her. And I love it. I love the background music that goes with this scene. It's just everything. is just like a culmination of everything just working so well together in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And like the way he just listens to her and comforts her,
Mm-hmm.
like he's not trying to like he's just there for her. But also it's the fact that like throughout this whole scene, like they've had such tension all night and romantic chemistry, but like they haven't kissed yet at all. They
No,
just
no.
have this emotional level like with each other that they can be completely themselves. And when she does finally say all that stuff, he's just there to be there and comfort her. But he's even like talking to his driver, like, I'm out of my depth. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But he still wants to be there no matter what.
Yeah. He's that crying shoulder for her.
So good.
And just a gentleman, right? Like he's goes
Mhm.
in, saves her from the water. She's frozen completely in a panic underwater. And that scene of him carrying her, like it's all very female gaze.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
Gives her his
yeah.
sweatshirt, a
Mm-hmm.
blanket, and just lets her. And then having him go around the block one more time because she fell
Oh my
asleep.
God.
Like he's literally like she's asleep, I don't want to disturb her. Just
When the driver says, "Do you want me to circle the block again?"
Again, yeah.
how many times?
I was like, "Oh."
And the thing is, I think that's like for him, I think he's probably been realizing it for a bit, but I think that's the moment that it really hits him that he's in love with her. Like, I think that moment is like the oh shit moment. Like, I'm absolutely in love with this girl. And like even Percy, his driver, comments on it. Like they have this interaction in the car. And it's just the way this man looks at this woman. Like he would destroy the world for her almost in a sense. So I that scene is probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole show. Like the swimming pool scene leading into that car scene. It's
Hmm.
probably one of my favorite things in the whole show. So
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how like episode four, not four. Why do I keep saying four?
Three.
Episode
Yeah.
three. Episode three ends up. And then we're on to episode four.
Mm-hmm.
Which is where is that the episode where they kind of like actually get together in episode four, or is it later?
So they're flirting, texting each other,
Yeah.
and they have
Like
that
hanging out
fiasco
at
with the
school.
birds
Yeah.
that
Oh
they
yeah,
have to
yeah,
pick up
yeah.
around the school, the pheasants or whatever those are.
Yeah, yeah.
But I like this. So on one of these days, like before the gala, they take a break from picking up the running these pheasants, like running all over the castle,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they have this another heart to heart. And he tells her he doesn't want to take over Beaufort. He doesn't even want to go to Oxford. And he says, on paper, I have all these privilege and opportunities, but none of it is my decision.
Yeah.
And you get a more of that dichotomy of money and power versus control and happiness. Like you can control your own life and you are, searching for this passion and
Mm-hmm.
happiness. And he doesn't get that privilege. He gets
No.
the other, like the more superficial privilege
Yeah.
and money and power. And she asks him, "What do you want? What would make you happy if you could do whatever you wanted?" And he just says, "I don't know.
Yeah, he doesn't
I
even
don't
know.
know." He doesn't
Yeah.
even know. So she says, "I think everyone has times when they forget everything around them, when they stop questioning every step and thought and just follow their intuition. I think life is about allowing that thought to find out what you have a
Mm.
real passion for."
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't think it's exactly that moment where he's never even allowed himself to think outside of the plans that have been set in stone for him from the get-go by his father.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really sad way to live and a really sad way to even be. It's just to constantly be following somebody else's path as your own. So yeah, but I love these conversations that they have with each other. They're so much deeper. And like you said,
They're so
Yeah.
raw. Yeah.
they really are. They really are. And they don't, it's not like, they are kissing each other or anything like that. They are just it's just this blooming chemistry between them and this
It's
rawness.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
a
again,
much
he's when
deeper.
he's watching her say all of this stuff, he is like eyes wide open. He's not just looking at her eyes, he like dips down and looks at her lips too. And you're just like, are they going to
Mm,
kiss at the end of the scene?
yeah.
He's really drinking it in. like what the content of what she's saying, as well as just her.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
it's all at like a mental level. But one of the things, like, he does realize kind of is that he really loves lacrosse. So he is
Yes.
trying to like beg his dad, when all this happens and he gets kicked off the lacrosse team just for like the part of the season. He's like, this is something I want. But his dad's like, no, you can't get everything you
You
want.
can't
But it's
have it.
interesting
Yeah.
because he taught him, like, you're a Beaufort, you can get whatever you want. But then you kind of see that it's like, no, you can't get what you want unless it's what I want for you. And that's
Mhm.
where it gets really interesting. But I love that in one of the episodes, Ruby goes to the headmaster,
It's
goes
right
to
after this scene.
right
She
after,
goes to the
yeah.
headmaster. Yeah.
And she's just like, I think, it's his last year. Like
Let him
lacrosse is his,
play.
yeah,
Yeah.
let him play. And it's one of those things where it's like she realizes like, the one thing he truly loves, and because he's like, I don't really know, but like, he loves lacrosse, and she helps him, and she does this such like selfless thing to just show that she cares and she wants to be there and support his passions and dreams. And it's like the first time anyone has ever, besides his sister, been like, I want to support you and be there for you. And it's such a beautiful scene.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And then do we then go to the scene where basically they're having the party
Isn't there
and
like a parent trap switcheroo that they do?
Yeah, but it doesn't
And
even
yes,
then
show it.
they
It
don't
doesn't
even show
even,
the
yeah,
full thing. But the
it,
sister
no,
shows up in his place for this business
yeah,
party.
yeah,
And the
so that
dad
he
is
can go.
upset. So he can go to the
Hmm.
gala at the school.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And
And
then
they make out of the gala
yeah, they
in the
finally
basement.
make it out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Chemistry finally.
Yeah,
Dad
yeah.
shows up.
And then
Horrible
the
dad
dad shows up,
shows
and that's
up.
the end of the episode. Like
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
dad is suddenly at the school.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah,
awful.
And
it's
then
tough.
and
It's
then
tough.
that's when his dad makes all hell break loose and he's like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will destroy her,
Episode 5
basically.
is him
Blackmails
Yeah.
threatening.
his son,
Yeah.
basically. He's
Yeah.
like, I'll
Yeah.
ruin her life if you involve her in yours. It's so
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he
Threatens to ruin
basically
Ruby's Oxford future, and it's everything to
he
her. Like
And
yeah.
he knows
he
that.
knows that. Yeah. Both the
So
father and the son know that.
mhm. 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 So he basically gives up on her and is now playing lacrosse, which basically makes her think he was just kind of like
Using
using
her
her to get his
to get
lacrosse, and now
back on
he's
the
back on the
team.
lacrosse, back on the team, and he's back to having this facade that he's had for, all his life.
Like partying,
Because
drinking,
yeah,
going out with friends,
partying,
not
drinking, yeah,
caring, throwing his money
yeah,
around. He just goes
yeah.
right back to it.
And then yeah, so then we're
Then we go
back
to the
to
Oxford
Oxford.
interviews. We could fast forward.
Yeah,
So Oxford interviews, they all go. And they're floor mates in
yeah,
this
yeah, right opposite
elaborate
each
dorm.
other. Yeah,
Yeah.
Cohabitation, what?
What?
yeah,
I wasn't expecting that.
opposite each
Crazy.
other.
So then
And
we're on high alert now because they're across the hall from each other.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he gets a little scared of the Oxford student that's hanging around her and taking
yeah,
them around campus and is facilitating this interview weekend at Oxford. And the alarm that is on his face when he realizes there's a connection
there,
between them two,
yeah,
and he goes full send on being an asshole.
Yeah.
Addictive. Love that.
yeah,
But they're,
yeah,
they're at each other's throats again.
yeah. They blow
And
up again.
they blow up again, and he's like, you don't know what I'm going through, and he's got like a little sob story, and she's like, I don't care, like, get over it. And it culminates in, I think, them running out of like this
Yeah.
meeting thing that they were having and going back to the dorm, and then they end up sleeping together.
Yeah. Do you know what? Do you
When he
know what?
when he
Wait.
grabbed her, I was like, oh,
I wanna talk about
Jesus.
before they sleep together though, right?
Yeah,
She
yeah.
gets the memory in her head of all the stuff he said to her when he was trying to push her away because he wanted to protect her from his father. And they
Mhm.
end up having the most mature conversation, and they talk it over, and
Yep.
it's so nice to see. And then that's when they actually sleep together. So it's like
Mhm.
Yeah.
before that happens, she gets that clarification and they have these really honest conversations that they've been needing to have. And I'm just so glad that that happened before they slept together, because imagine if they slept together and then she felt guilty and wanted to talk to him about it, but she didn't feel like she could bring it up.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
That scene is really, really good because they sort of blow up at each other and they end up kissing each other, and it's like hot, and they are into each other, but then you think they're going to sleep together straight away, but then she's like, she stops and he respects that. He backs up, and that's when they have that conversation, and she's like, but you said all of these things to me. What's been going on? And he kind of like breaks down, and he has this like monologue bit where he just kind of like literally he breaks down. But my dad was saying he was going to do this to your father and to you, and I know how much it means to you, and I have been in this position and I can't do it anymore. And it's like, I really, really enjoyed that. And then when they clear the air, that's like when they move forward, and I feel like that's such a good way to do it, because imagine they would have slept together with that still
Exactly.
between them. They would have felt like
Exactly.
it was a mistake. She would have been so insecure about the
Mm.
situation. But
It just
because they had,
wouldn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
they had that conversation beforehand, it really, really worked well.
We skipped a small part, just a small part, but it's very important to me and I need to go back to it. But it's when they first are at the Oxford prep thing and she's going in and she's walking up the stairs and he grabs her hand. That part right
Stop.
there,
Oh my God, yes.
I was like,
Yes.
because they
Lost it.
they had
Lost
no
it.
contact and were completely like hadn't talked in so long, but he still grabs her hand and is like, good luck.
So sweet.
Screaming,
So
screaming.
sweet.
But then,
Yeah.
of course, then they get at each other's throats, and then obviously back to
Yeah.
where we were. Just that was something very important to me.
Yes, I know that is very important. I'm so glad you brought that
That
up. Thank
scene,
you.
yeah. Do you know what though? The scene where they sleep together, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm not in Kansas anymore. Sort of the situation, because I was like, I haven't
Oh,
seen
well,
it
he's got his
explicit.
teeth like opening the
Yeah,
condom, and you're
ripping
just
the
like, oh my God, we are not
This
a
is a
K-drama land.
Western.
Yeah.
This is a Western film.
Like, what
What's
happened
happening?
to the chaste kiss and the hand holding? It's all gone out the window.
What happened to like lightning in the air and cutting away to like rain falling on the leaves outside and
But
like shit like
it
that?
was still, romantic. And then it was still a good
Wind
scene,
in
but
the
definitely
curtains.
was not expecting to see that much of it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not gonna
was
lie.
not prepared. I was not prepared. I was like, oh my God, like, oh my God, what is all of a sudden? But yeah, and then, that leads into the end, which obviously they're preparing to sort of go to Oxford together and just be,
Be
he
happy.
thinks once he's away from, his father and at Oxford, he can sort of be with her. But then he gets the news that his mum has died, and it just absolutely breaks him.
And it's
And
even
that's kind of,
it's
yeah,
so
go ahead,
bad.
Becky.
Oh, sorry. It's just even worse though, because like you find out the father didn't even tell him. Like he didn't want him to ruin his future at Oxford and mess up the interviews. He didn't even tell him that his mother had a stroke and has passed away.
No.
So it has been a while. And even the
Yeah.
driver knew. And it's just the betrayal he feels, you see the rage take over.
The driver knows, but there's I still think there's a very high chance that the driver is actually James's dad.
What?
Wait
have
a minute.
I have a feeling because
Liliana.
did you not see the way his mother stared at the driver and the whole
Yes,
conversation that the
I
mother
did.
had, that like, we have to play this role, and sometimes it's just the cards that we're
I thought
sort
they
of
were just
dealt.
like
Does she
respected
have
family
The way that I
conversation?
clutched my
No,
pearls
no.
when you said that.
I didn't even realize that.
There's definitely something. And that would even more explain why his like father has a real hate towards him, because he's like the only son he
True.
can have. I don't know, like, guys, I don't even know if this is true or not. That's like
It's
how
a
I
good
kind of
theory.
there was definite this is my theory. There was definitely something between his mother and the driver. Absolutely. Like, nobody can take that away from like my idea. because even the way the driver protects James from his own father,
Oh,
like,
That's true. No,
true.
that is
like
so true.
if he was just a driver, like that's my employee. James is not his employer. His father is. So like the way he gets and like his father is just like the way they have that shock against each other and like the driver is like I am not going to let you hurt him sort of situation. That is not the words of a
Oh,
driver.
Yeah,
So
no, you're
to
so
me,
correct about that.
wait.
my theory is that he is the driver's son, or at least there was something between, because the mother, like, it just goes back to the whole conversation that James has with his mother before he goes to Oxford, and
Yeah,
like it
that
just
was tough
hints at
too.
stuff. Yeah, so that's my theory. That's my 2 cents.
But like, oh gosh. Also, like, I mean, you see the mother is very she's there for her daughter and her son. And so just hearing that like, she has passed away and Lydia just found out, she was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't
Yeah,
even get a
yeah.
chance to tell her mom and now her mom's dead.
Mm,
And that's
Well, she
just
was
like
happy. She said, I have good news and all this stuff on
that's
the
yeah.
true.
message
She
that
did,
she
yeah.
left.
She finally realized because Ruby has a conversation with Lydia, and that
Mm-hmm.
is
Yeah.
I honestly think that conversation was so needed. Like Lydia needed that. She had no one to talk to about it, especially
No.
'cause she hadn't talked to her mom. And I mean, Ruby just gave her so much comfort. And I thought that was just a really beautiful scene when they were outside the bar and they were
Mm-hmm.
talking.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I'm so stressed for the second season because so much is going to change with like the
So,
cliffhanger.
Oh God. Oh God.
All
do you
right,
want to
Are you
Liliana,
know?
going to
Do
reveal
you
what's different?
I'm
Yes, so
stressed.
I
Okay.
haven't read the full book, but I have seen like people explaining stuff on like videos and stuff. So how book one ends is for some dumb reason, this guy does not tell Ruby that his mother is dead. And he goes back into like his comfort zone, which is drinking and drugs and parties. And basically, he's at this party, and this is how book one ends. He's at this party and he gets like drunk, and he has some other girl all over him. And Ruby walks in, and she is like, that is it, I'm done. Because at this point, she doesn't know that his mother's died. Um, so then we go into book two, and he just goes on this like massive what's the word, self-destruction path.
No.
And it's literally, she eventually finds out that his mother has died, and it's her like trying to save him but not to get into a relationship with him. She just wants to like get him back into,
Back to
shape
himself.
of sorts, back to himself. And eventually
Oh,
she
that's
does.
rough.
And that picture circles back around. And it basically, I don't know what they're going to change, like from from books to drama, but the picture circles back around and it puts her whole trip to Oxford on the rocks. Like she may not get in at all because of this damn picture.
No.
Shut up.
Because they think she's the one having the affair with the teacher.
And
So
obviously Lydia's
everything
not going to
comes back
say
around.
anything.
Yeah. So everything kind of comes back around. And then book
So the
three,
original sin.
yeah. And then book
Yeah.
three is basically like them finding their way back to each other and like healing together and whatnot.
Ooh.
So
So
that's
So
really
like,
is called
I'm
Save
hearing that there's
Me.
a lot of angst happening
yes,
in
Stop it.
season
yes,
two.
Both of
yes,
you, stop it with
yes.
the angst. I knew it.
season
I'm
two
turning
is
red.
gonna be season two is gonna be angst capital, like from what I
Yes.
gather.
Darn
So
it.
so
Darn
yeah,
it.
yeah. Get ready, get
As soon
ready,
as you said the
get
picture
ready.
was going to come back, I'm like, this is going to be so messy and bad. All he
Yes,
needed to do
yes.
was just delete the picture from his phone after he realized he was in love with her, which we did. There's a couple of things where like when he's sketching in his notebook and we realized that he like
Oh my god,
that
yes.
Oh.
scene was like it was great. It was wonderful. There's so many scenes honestly that I feel like people could talk about because it just
Mm-hmm.
highlights romance really well and people falling
Yeah,
in love and
yeah.
showing their whole selves to each other. But
Yeah,
mean,
but I do like the final scene. I just don't like that that was the final scene of the whole season and that a season 2 wasn't guaranteed when we originally watched this. So thankfully there
true.
is the rest of the story will be told, but him heartbroken that his mother has passed, going to her house again to seek her out, to get this comfort that he's missing. And he sees her having the most wonderful idyllic time with her family inside this home that is a home.
So
Looks like a
crushing.
home.
Mhm.
So
crushing.
warm. And he's outside on the outside looking
Yeah.
in. And you just feel that he is disassociating like from her, from everything, and realizing that
Mhm.
he'll never have this.
Like he feels
Yeah.
so far away.
He
And like
feels
Yeah.
really far.
he
Yeah.
just got in
Yeah.
that fight too, so he's all banged up too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
literally,
yeah.
like he's
Mhm.
like, this is her
And-
reality, warm home, and this is mine.
And exactly, see, the book has that scene in it, and then he goes to the party
And then he goes
afterwards,
nuts.
and that's
No!
That's how it's gonna
So-
start. That's totally how
If
season
they
2 is gonna start.
So
started-
that's how kind of like the book finishes, is that he goes to the party straight afterwards, and he goes like spiraling down
Mhm,
this
mhm.
drug and booze
Yeah.
binge.
Right.
And
But it also, I mean, it highlights how he's looking at her family life and he's like, she'll never understand
Yeah.
what I'm
Mhm.
going through.
He feels
Yeah.
disconnected from her.
Yeah.
Like before
Mhm.
he thought like they
He
were-
thought, yeah.
and now he's like, wait a minute, she doesn't know what I'm going through. She doesn't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
me. And it's
Or
gonna
why would I burden her with all of my shit when
Mhm.
she's got the
She's
perfect
happy.
life?
Yeah.
He's gonna relapse? No, this is the worst.
This is so
news, you
so
guys.
believable to me as well.
It is believable though, because I mean, in a circumstance like that, when you go through that trauma and you feel like you have no one to talk to, you just go back to your old ways because that's the comfortable, that's what you're
Mhm.
used to, that's how you were
Mhm.
raised.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Wow.
No wonder it's
Yeah.
called Save Me. No wonder it's called Save Me. 'Cause
Save Me is
she's-
the second book.
Yeah.
She just keeps saving him. That's
Yeah. Yeah. The
Well,
first
actually,
one
I
is
got it wrong. It's Save Me, Save You, Save Us, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Save Me is the first one. Save You is the second one. Third one is Save Us.
Yeah, yeah.
I see.
Ooh.
A lot of
Ooh.
stuff's going to come down. And do you know what? I reckon I will say it here now. We will come back together and talk about season
Oh, heck
Yes.
yeah.
We'll
Even though
do
it has
it. We'll
angst.
do
Safe
it.
to say.
Yes, we'll
crying the
do
whole
it all
time.
over again. It'll be fine. We'll support
You
each
gotta
other.
have the
We'll do
angst
it.
queen back for
Yeah.
season 2. So,
Absolutely.
I'm just gonna be
Absolutely.
whining the whole time.
ugh.
Be like, you guys.
The thing is, there is a lot of moments, good moments in the second book from, I basically
Okay.
there's this
You got Spark
content
Notes.
creator. Yeah. She basically like gave everybody the Spark Notes from book 1, book 2, book 3. So I got basically like the Spark Notes. Lydia's going to make a really big comeback in the next couple of books. And
Yeah, I'm really
so
interested in
is
Lydia.
Actually,
Me too.
So is actually, I don't know if that's going to be the case in the show, but in the books, Ruby's sister is going to become a bigger part of the show as well.
Yes, my
I wanna see her
girl.
more.
So yeah. I mean, guys, we could talk about this
We
all
could.
day.
We
feel like
hit
we
the
have
highlights.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. I think we're gonna wrap it up, and leave it here. Stay tuned. This little trio will come back when
Yep,
season
yep.
2 airs, and we will do another episode on season 2. I think. Guys,
It
thank
was
you
a
so
fun
much
one.
for coming on and chatting to me about this.
Oh, Thank you for having us.
Yes,
You're
thank you for having
welcome.
us.
You guys know both of you have very much open invitation anytime. Invite yourselves over anytime. So that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode and we shall see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.